So thank you all for joining, and let's begin. I just have a few PowerPoint slides to go through, then we'll go into Dynamics GP for the demo. Just a little bit to start off with about Professional Advantage. We are a gold certified Microsoft partner as well as ISV, independent software vendor. We do develop a number of add-ons for Microsoft Dynamics. Professional Advantage was established in 1989. We do have operations in North America, Australia, and in Europe. A little background on collections management. The solution was originally developed by Professional Advantage several years ago. And then about 12 years back, Microsoft had purchased collections from Professional Advantage under an OEM agreement and shipped that in some of the core versions of Microsoft GP. So if you do own a current license to collections management, and you are aware of that, you are entitled to start using new functionality. That did debut on June 1st. After a great 12-year relationship with Microsoft, going back here, they have now transitioned that product back to Professional Advantage as of June 1st this year, and that again is when the new release did debut. So if you own a license under the BRL Advanced Management version of Dynamics GP or own a license to collections through modular licensing, again, you are entitled to use that new version. So please contact Rimrock and your account manager if you're unaware of which license you do own. If you're new to collections management, you will see the new functionality as well as the standard functionality that's always been offered in the solution today during the demo. Again, we're very excited to have the product back. We are taking on a lot of product feedback, customer suggestions, and things like that now that we don't have the channel through Microsoft for any of those development requests. As I said before, we do offer a number of other cross-industry Microsoft Dynamics solutions that are listed there. An archiving solution for Microsoft Dynamics GP, a staffing and recruiting industry solution known as OneStaff, built on the Dynamics CRM and Dynamics GP platforms. National accounts functionality similar to the one in Microsoft. There are a few bits of functionality in our national accounts module that are different than what's offered by Microsoft. And then two products that are developed for Dynamics RMS. First one is an integration solution called RMS Connect Pro for Microsoft Dynamics GP and Dynamics RMS. And then a retail analytics and merchandise planning solution we call RAMP for Microsoft Dynamics RMS. Just a few more points here about Professional Advantage. We have been a Microsoft President's Club member for the past 13 years, and Microsoft does currently ship other Professional Advantage developed solutions in that core Dynamics GP solution today. So that is a little bit about us. Let's get into the solution, collections management. I just have a few slides, as I said earlier. First of all, the objective of collections management. First, it's going to really take the guesswork out of collecting on your overdue invoices. So if you do have delinquent customers and customers that aren't making payments on those invoices, collections management is really going to centralize your debt collecting functionality right inside Great Plains, allow you to keep notes, history on all your customer payments, and really that collections activity. Second point here, collections management is going to make it easy to do your debt collecting process at high volumes, but in as little time as possible. Hand in hand with that point, collections management with the new functionality is going to allow you to automate this collections process through advanced workflow processes we call collection plans. So what's new? If you are familiar with collections management and how it was delivered from Microsoft in past years, we have released a ton of new functionality in the collections management R2, which did debut June 1st. Some of those new features include some improved email capabilities. Collections management really makes it easy to select a message template or letter ID right from within Great Plains, and then select all of your customers' open invoices, or maybe just a select few, to attach to those emails. So we'll look at some of those email capabilities in the demo as well. You do have collection plans in the new release. Now you can choose from a list of predefined collection plans, so there'll be some out of the box for you to use or modify. Basically copy the plans out of the box and then modify to conform to your own business practices. You can certainly define your own collection plans from scratch, listing those out step by step. And you'll set up your collection plans for your different customer types. Now the collection plans will have system-generated reminders or actions that go out to these customers that are assigned to your plans. Now these actions can be anything from a reminder email that gets sent, maybe it's a more specific collection letter that's sent either through email or it's printed out, sent through the mail or via fax. Maybe it's a call task that gets set up for one of your users to then go ahead and put in a call to the customer to inquire on those outstanding invoices. We'll go through a list of those actions that can be a part of your collection plan. So once you have your plan set up and the actions that will happen based on the number of days that those invoices are outstanding, you will have a processing queue for processing those steps that are due, and you can process and evaluate customers individually and steps one at a time, or you can group similar steps or similar customer types and activities together and process those in bulk. We'll go through that processing window as well. Also in the new release, you do have quick startup wizards for setting up your collection actions, your collection letters, and again the letters are the message templates for sending emails or collection letters to your customers. You also have startup wizards for setting up your plans and also developing customer queries. Advanced reporting is also available. You'll have a cash board, kind of a new take on your dashboard, some other cash flow forecasts and customer metrics available in these new releases. And then if you are, the last point here, if you are invoicing from a different integrated system other than Dynamics GP, so for example, if you're maybe invoicing from a third-party module to GP, for example, project accounting or one staff back office, formerly known as PAM, or maybe you're invoicing from a system totally outside the scope of Great Plains. As long as those systems can generate a PDF invoice and save them to a file share on our directory, collections management can pull those invoices, match them to your customers in GP, and then send those out with your emails and statements. A little bit of overview of collections management before we jump into Great Plains. You will have collection notes, which act as the hub of the solution. You'll have an action associated with those notes you create, whether that's a customer promising to pay you, maybe you're disputing some invoices or have some special circumstances going on that is the reason your customer hasn't started paying. Of course, you'll have your invoices associated with those notes you will create, dates to then follow up on payments that have been processed, and then these notes will really drive tasks for your collectors to then follow up on those notes if payments still aren't being made. Next, you'll have your collection letters. As I said before, these are the message templates. You can use the mail merge fields in Dynamics GP, or you can use Word templates for these letters, in which case you can use all the great formatting features of Microsoft Word to send and email the invoices and statements to your customers. Lastly, here with the new functionality, you will have collection plans, which will automate this collection process for you. Now, when you set up the solution, you're going to first want to lay out your collection plans. Now, you'll need to ask yourself, your company, when we have a type of customer that has documents X number of days old, which actions are we going to take? Are we going to send them a reminder 7 days before that invoice is due if we haven't seen payment made yet? Are we going to send them a more specific collection letter once those invoices go past due? Are we going to set up a call task for somebody to call the customer? Maybe after a certain point in time, the customer is still outstanding, we send them to a legal department or or a collection agency, or we put a hold on their services plan. Which actions are we going to take based on those days the customer is outstanding? Next, you'll lay out your collection letters. What specific verbiage and invoices are we going to attach to those letters? Then lay out your actions. Again, we'll go through a number of action examples today in those plans. Eventually building those plans and listing those actions out step by step and assigning those plans to your customers. The last slide I have here for you is just kind of the daily processing of collections management, a scope of the functionality that will be available to you. First off, you will have a task window, which is your to-do list for the day. That will be compiled. A lot of the things that can't happen automatically through those plans, such as your call tasks, obviously those can't go out automatically, so there will be a task assigned to this list that is unique to each user or collector you have set up in the system for you then work on those lists, make those calls, and then mark those tasks complete when you have carried those out. You do have query functionality, as I mentioned before, for targeting specific customer groups. Now, the queries can get pretty complex. You can specifically put filters and restrictions on these queries so you can target unique customer groups. So let's say, for example, you just want to target customers who have amounts greater than 90 days past due, yet haven't made a promise to pay you anything. We just want to look at those customers. We can use this query or these queries for targeting those customers. Now, along with that, you do have a query letters window for bulk processing actions to those customers you find on those queries. So if we wanted to target a specific customer group and then send them all an email, we can do that with the query letters window. The collection main window, which is actually the first window we'll see here in the demo, is nice for ad hoc and inquiry. You can get an overall sense by customer. You can review all of their notes. You can do some one-off printing and emailing regarding their collection status and those outstanding invoices. Of course, creating the notes with the attached invoices. The notes, again, are accessed from your collections main window. We'll look at creating a note, some existing notes in the demo. Lastly here, the last window we'll see in the demonstration is the collection plan processing window, which is essentially your queue for processing actions to all of your customers on those plans. Now, with that said, let's jump into Great Plains and we'll take a look at the demo from within GP. Now, one thing to note, the new functionality, if you are a current user of collections management, is supported on GP 2010 as well as GP 2013. For the demo today, we will be looking at it in Microsoft Dynamics GP 2010. Now, the first window we're going to look at is the collections management main window. So I have a few shortcuts set up here for the demo. Please note all of the collections functionality is going to reside on your sales card. You will have all of these windows when you install and set up the solution from this sales area. Now, the collections main window, as I said before, is nice for ad hoc and inquiry. I'm going to pull open a customer here so you can see an example of the collections main. So my customer here, from the lookup window I picked is Aaron Fitz Electrical. I can inquire on the different locations at that customer. If you do have different address IDs set up, you can scroll through and pick which location you would wish to work through or work with for this customer. The contact person for the customer is also going to show up here, the phone and fax number. We can see when this customer has made their last payment, how much that payment was for, the year-to-date sales. So this is the amount of business we've done year-to-date with the customer. There are drill backs and links for looking at the unposted sales for the customer. Now, this is nice. If you come into the main window, you see there's a large amount outstanding. There's a large amount unpaid for this customer. We can maybe look at the unposted sales, and if there's a product that hasn't shipped yet, or maybe a service that hasn't been completed, we can put a hold or stop on that until this customer starts making some payments. So this will just pull open a sales order processing document inquiry window. We can see the unposted sales. And then from your receivables transaction inquiry, we can see which of those sales have been unposted. Now there's also a drill back for unposted cash. This allows you to see if we do have cash from the customer, it just hasn't been applied to your invoices yet. So before we start making our collection calls or sending them specific collection letters, we may want to look at their unposted cash. So it gives you some vision on the unposted sales of cash, also from this window. Now we can assign customers specific credit managers. So if you have more than one person in your organization that's doing debt collections or this collection management activity, you can assign specific credit managers to your customers. That would show up here on this collection main window as well. On the right side of the window, we can see the aging periods. Now this is pulling directly from accounts receivable. I can see what's currently owed, also the different aging buckets that are past due. If I want to display what specific documents these are, I can certainly see that. It'll just pull open a transaction inquiry window again, show us which document is in that aging bucket that hasn't been paid. Below those aging periods, we can see the total amount that's owed to your organization. The customer's credit limit, salesperson territory ID, that's all pretty standard GP functionality. Now at the bottom of the window, we can see all the notes that have been created for this customer. We can certainly create new notes. Here there will be a button for creating a new note. Now I'm going to pull up in just an existing note just to show you what's happening here. When we create these notes, it's going to assign it to the customer's ID. It'll have a date and time stamped on when this note was created, and then of course who created this note. In this case, the system administrator is the caller ID. This is the person who had created the note. The address ID, the location of the customer we're currently working with, the contact person, and we can assign these notes different priority levels if we want to. We will then assign an action to this note. And stepping back here 1 second, we do have open text field at the bottom. In this example, we've typed here and left a note that we spoke with Bob. They had promised to pay these 2 invoices by next week. So the invoices are listed out in the body of the note. This, of course, is open text field. Once you select the invoices that the customer had said they were going to pay, they will also populate in the body of the note down here. Going back to the action ID, this is the action. It happens to be a promised payment. Now, again, from the text, we see that they promised to pay these a week from now, so we're going to set our action date out a week from when we create this note. And then when we assign this note, we can assign it to different users in the system to then go ahead and follow up if a week from now that payment hadn't been made. This will default to the person creating the note, but you can assign it to different users or collectors inside GP. We will select the documents they promised to pay us, or the documents that are associated with this note we are creating. So there'll be an expansion arrow that will open a list of all of the outstanding invoices or documents related to this customer. We'll simply select which ones they promised to pay. In this example, hit select. So that would populate this in the body of the email as well. It's also going to specify the action amount here. That's just the total amount of those 2 invoices that they are promising to pay. One thing to note here, this action amount can be different than the total amount of those invoices. So let's say, for example, we were speaking with this customer and they promised to pay us $3,000. They said, well, we can get you $3,000 by next week. Well, that's not the total amount of the invoices, but we'll change this amount to $3,000. And once that payment comes through, then that amount will be applied to those invoices we specified here. The status of the notes, this one's still currently open. Once they've made payment, we can mark it as complete. If for any reason these notes need to be canceled or they are canceled by a plan, there are statuses for that as well. A lesser known bit of functionality, the collection notes, it does keep a revision history. So there'll be an expansion arrow. We can come in here and see if all of the revisions that have been made since the original note. So I can see the original note, when it was created, what time, who created that, the specific text and documents that were relating to the original note, and then scroll through and see all of the revisions that had been made. Going back to my main window, again at the bottom we'll see all of the notes. If they're still open, the ones that have been completed, we can get a good idea of customer payments for those outstanding invoices. One other thing from the main window, there is a drill back. We're looking at the total amount that's currently owed to your organization by this customer. There are some nice visual cues and total amounts here at the bottom. Now, looking at all of the invoices that are currently outstanding, these visual cues are nice to have. So this I with the circle around it, this lets you know that there has been a note created for this document. I can certainly pull up on that note, get an idea of what's going on with that document, and review that from there. If there's a P next to any document here, that allows you to see that there has been a promise to pay that specific amount. Again, I can look at the note, see when that's being promised to pay to us. If that action date has gone by, that P will turn into a B, which stands for a broken promise. You can then go ahead and inquire why that payment had been made from there. So at the bottom, it'll total the amount. This is what's currently being promised. If there's a D next to any document, this lets you know it's in dispute. We can see the total amount that's currently being disputed. Again, if for any reason there's any special circumstances around any of these invoices, you can assign it that category as well. And then the remaining amount that doesn't have, that isn't currently being promised, disputed, or has a special circumstance, would fall into the none category here. So again, some nice visual cues here on all of the open invoices for the customer. Also from this main window, there are a few things we can do. We can develop these queries. Now, as I said before, there's a number of different restrictions we can put to target these customers. We can restrict customer info. We can look at the balances owed to you. Maybe we just want to look for customers with balances greater than the credit limit. We can sort by the different aging periods, document date, due date, last time we've sent customers a letter, notes, action types, levels, so a lot of different restrictions we can add to these queries. I do have an example built here, and this allows us to look at the restrictions that we've added to the query. This allows us to see any customers with balances over 90 days. So a customer has a balance outstanding greater than 90 days, and the action, and they've promised to pay us that amount, yet we still haven't seen that payment. So I want to see all customers that fall into this category. We'll go ahead and run the query. It's going to tell me yes, this one already exists. Now there'll be some dialogue here before it takes you to the customer list, but it's telling you that it searched 103 customer records. It found one, actually, that met your criteria with a total balance of this amount. The balance that meets your query is this amount right here. I'll hit OK. It's going to bring us back to the collection main window and pull on the customer that met this specific query. Now, if you notice here, the view has changed from looking at all the customers to just the ones on those queries. Now, if I hit my customer lookup, it's just going to have the list of customers from that query. So I can select and then go ahead and follow up with all the customers from those queries. A few other bits of functionality from the collections main window. You do have the ability to do some printing. You can print statements for your customers, some notes. You also have the ability to send emails. Now, I don't have my my email set up on this demo environment, but just to demo the email capabilities of collections management. Let's say we were speaking with this customer again on the phone, and they request invoices to be sent to them. So I can send an email right from this main window. And I can use a email template, which are going to be these letter IDs that you'll set up for emailing these invoices. And I'll just pick this letter ID, for example. It'll pull on the text of that specific email template. I can edit the message before sending it to the customer. So I know this one's going to Bob. I'm going to put his name in here. And then this specific template allows us to select the invoices we want to send to the customer. So from the bottom of the window here, we can select which specific documents they've requested. I'll hit refresh, and if you notice, two things are going to happen here. It's going to take the documents selected and put them in the body of the email. So the document number, the date, and the amounts of those documents. It's also going to attach those documents as PDFs to this email, so when they're sent, the customer has those physical documents. So I have what I want to say, which invoices or documents I want to send to the customer. Simply hit send, and it will go right out from this window. Now we're also able to access our collections task list from the main window. You will have the option on your sales card to access this task list right from that sales area. Now the task list, again, is all of your action items or your to-do list for the day. And the more you use the collection plans, the more these tasks are going to be, again, things that can't happen automatically, such as phone calls or follow-ups on promised payments. So you can see here, this is my open task list. If I don't have a collector ID selected, it's going to show me all of my open tasks organization-wide. We can sort by the action date, action ID. I can show just my open tasks, or maybe I want to see the completed ones. I can select the action, open up the note from here, open up the customer, put in the call. Once we have followed up with this customer, we can mark it as complete. Now the next piece of functionality I do want to focus on is the collections plans. So we're going to open up first the collection plan setup window. Grab a collection plan here to show you as an example. So this is just a standard plan we have set up. You can see the steps listed out in the plan. This is, again, based on the oldest outstanding invoice for the customer and the number of days it's past due. So the steps here are just actions we have listed out. There are a few things we can choose to have happen in this plan. Once the customer reaches their last step in the plan, we can either have it keep repeating that last step. So maybe it's an email that gets sent every month to the customer for the lifetime of that outstanding payment. Or we can just have this stop suggesting next actions, and you can determine where you want to go with the customer from there. Also, you can specify minimum amounts to be met before these actions can happen. So this ensures that that outstanding invoice for the customer meets this minimum amount before it actually can go through this plan. Now this is nice if you have a customer, let's say you do millions of dollars of business with every year, but for some reason they have an outstanding invoice for $30. You're not going to send them through this collection plan unless it meets that minimum. So a minimum is not required, but if you do want a minimum amount to be met before it goes through the collection plan, you can certainly specify that. Now getting down to the steps here, this is, again, is based on the number of days the customer's invoice is outstanding. Now there's a negative amount here for this step, so this actually will send the customer a reminder 3 days before the invoice is due. Now the reminder is an action we have set up, and this action happens to be associated with a letter. So this is actually what the customer will get. It's a pretty simple email letter here, letting the customer know they have invoices that will be due soon. Here's a list of the outstanding items. We've also attached them to the email for their convenience. So this is just an example of a letter we have set up. We can use the mail merge field, so if I want to make this letter a little bit more personal, let's put in some customer info, maybe the contact's name, insert that there with the mail merge field. Now, you do have several options when attaching invoices and listing out the details of the invoices in the body of your letters. So you can attach all the invoices. Maybe we want to attach all the invoices to the email and list out the detail in the body of the email. Number of different options here. Maybe we just want to attach the overdue invoices, or just a total balance, or the aging periods that they have outstanding. So there's a lot of different options for your invoices, listing the detail of those, and attaching those to these emails. As I pointed out earlier, you do have the ability to use the Microsoft Word documents as these templates. So if you want to use the formatting features of Microsoft Word when sending out these emails, you would select this Word document and then make sure you can locate that on a file share on your directory for pulling that template. Not going to save any of these changes. I go back to my collection plan here. Now, it'll take you through the steps of the plan. 7 days past due, the customer still hasn't made payment. It's going to send them an email. This is just another letter type we have set up. 14 days, it'll set up a call task for one of your collectors to then put in a call to the customer. If they're still outstanding, 20 days, send another email. 22 days, set up another call. 27 days, set up another email, or send another email, rather. And then all the way down to where we want to end this plan, whether that's, like I said before, putting a hold on their services, or sending them to your legal department or a collection agency. Wherever we want that plan to end, that will be your last step. One other thing to notice here is there are grace periods associated with each of these steps. Now that ensures the customers aren't getting actions one right after the other. They have to go through that grace period before another step can be processed. So, for example, let's say you're out on vacation, we haven't been able to process or confirm that this email is able to be sent. The customer is now 13 days past due. You get back into the office, you send out that email, or you allow that to be processed, and then it'll go through that grace period of 5 days before that call task can actually be assigned. Just another quick example here of a collection plan. If you want to assign a simple phone plan here to your larger customers, you don't want them getting auto-generated emails. Just another example of a collection plan here. Now the last window I'm going to show you here is the collection plan processing window. Now this is your queue for processing actions. So every customer that's set to get an email or set up a call, they actually need to verify those actions can happen before those emails get sent out or before those call tasks get assigned. So at the top, you'll see all of your customers with actions that are due. Now, there's a number of different sorting capabilities here. We can just look at customers. We can look at all of them with a balance. Maybe we just want to look at the customers that are overdue. We can sort by collector. We can sort by those queries you develop. Or maybe we just want to look at the customers that are at the end of their plan and determine where we want to take those customers. We can sort and search for different customers. We can sort by the specific plan that they're on. We can sort by the specific action or step that's currently being carried out for the customer, or by the next suggested action. So this is what's ready to be processed here. So let's say, for example, let's look at all the customers that are set to get this reminder email. I know that's pretty safe. I will process all those customers at one time. It would then take those out of my queue. Now going back to looking at all customers, we can certainly process these customers individually. So if I select this customer, Blue Yonder Airlines, for example, they're on the standard plan. They currently had a call put into them. They're still outstanding for these documents here that appear in the middle. The next action will be this second email. So I can see what email is going to be sent. I can modify that before sending it out, and I can process this customer again on a one-off basis. Now once you get a good handle on your collection process and these plans, you can start to process all these customers at one time. Now before it's actually going to send this stuff off, it's going to let you know what's going to happen. All your customers on the phone plan, it's going to generate 7 email reminders. and those will be sent. All the customers on your standard plan, it's going to generate 3 emails of this letter type, 1 email of this letter type, 71 reminder emails. Those will all be sent once you hit OK. And then 2 call tasks are going to be created and assigned to those collectors to then put into the customers. Now when you're sending your letters, you can opt to have the system email only, or you can have it print what doesn't get emailed. So if you do have customers set up not to receive email, this will print off those collection letters and associated invoices, and you can send those through the mail or via fax, however you contact your customer. Also, when assigning these actions, such as these phone calls that need to be made, you can assign those to the customer's assigned credit manager, or you can select a specific collector for those to be assigned to.